Well, hello everyone, thanks for tuning in again. So you bought into the hype train clickbait about the original PlayStation 1 being an audiophile CD player. I don't know who would have been going around peddling stuff like that. But of course you acquired one somehow, and lo and behold, it doesn't work. I'm here to help. But first, how do we know this is one of the good PlayStations for playing CDs? There is really only one model. Essentially, it's the first series that came out. The 1000 series. Mine is SCPH-1002 because it's a PAL model. In Japan, that would be 1000, and in North America, that would be 1001. And what made this 1000 series model special was the DAC that they used on the inside, the digital analog converter. These were from a company called Asahi Kasei Microsystems, and it is the AK-43 AVM DAC. After the 1000 series, Sony decided to rip out that DAC, and supposedly they were not as good anymore. Now, this was a premium DAC at the time, on par with other CD players of that era. Sony were instrumental in bringing the CD format and technology to the commercial market. Sony, along with Philips, were the first to produce CD players. And so Sony probably felt like they had to make a statement with this PlayStation 1. They were coming into the video games market, the home console market, and one of the advantages they had over other consoles like the Nintendo 64 was that you could play your music CDs. So let's address the elephant in the room. And I think a lot of the PlayStation 1's appeal has been blown out of proportion when it comes to playing CDs. Most of us, including myself, are not saying that the PlayStation 1 is the be-all and end-all of vintage CD players. I think what a lot of us are trying to say is that, well, if you were looking to get back into CDs, to break out that CD collection and play them, there's a good chance, if you're around my age, 40, you probably had a PlayStation 1 sitting around at home growing up. And it may be in storage. It may be in mum's storage. It might be in Uncle Owen's storage. You may pick one up from your neighbor's garage sale, and it would not have cost a lot of money. If you go out of your way and pay a premium price for the 1000 series PlayStation 1, I think you may have done the wrong thing, because they can be more trouble than they're worth. A lot of the time you'll get lucky finding these on Marketplace as well and eBay, because people have done a clean out, they don't know exactly what they've got. They just think that this is a regular, unspecial PlayStation 1. And look, if you were to pay $50 to $100 for it, I think that's okay, because you're probably going to pay the same price for a CD player of the same era. You know the other thing that this thing can do, that CD players can't do? It can play PlayStation games, if that's still what you're into. And if you're like me, in your 40s, trying to relive your nostalgic youth, then this is the best of both worlds. The other thing that makes this model identifiable as the audiophile PlayStation 1 is the RCA outs on the back, which is super handy when connecting it to a TV and a stereo. But we'll get to that later, and why perhaps you shouldn't be using that. The big problem we have with these aging PlayStation models is that the CD player starts to die and it can't read discs anymore. Which is a big problem if you really wanted to play CDs, isn't it? Because a lot of people will just put things like X stations in here now, which will read all of the PlayStation games off of an SD card. But that's not what we want it for. One of the easy fixes is to adjust the voltage to that laser via a little potentiometer, and that can sometimes get you out of trouble, get it going again. But when that no longer works, it means the laser truly is dead. So I've got the next best fix for you. And one of the best upgrades you can do for this PlayStation model. Ta-da! A donor PlayStation 1, but not just any donor PlayStation 1. The last revision of the PlayStation 1, the PS1. The CD drive itself, the laser, is the best revision they ever made for it. The latest, the newest, so to be the least worn. And we're going to transplant that from here into the older PlayStation. Now there are other models of the fat PlayStation 1 that you can harvest the CD drive from. So that's an option as well. But I like these ones because they really are the best drives and mechanisms that they made. The least worn, the newest, I guess. Obviously, you don't want to pay a lot for it because that's defeating the purpose of this, getting this up and running. So hunt around, be patient, find one. Usually people are flogging them off, not working, simply because they don't have the original power adapter, so they can't fire it up. The other option is to buy a brand new laser from AliExpress in China. I've never used one, but from what I've read online, they're not the best quality and the laser burns out quickly or doesn't read discs all the time. And that's simply not something that I would like. So let me just fire this one up and show you what I mean when it won't read any discs, and then we'll get into repairing it. Okay, for this purposes, I'm using a CRT because that's the way it was meant to be played. I'm gonna try a game first. Final Fantasy VII, best RPG ever. Oh, how I love that sound. And as you can see, it goes straight to the PlayStation menu. Let's try a music CD and see if we get anything. Nothing but clicking. And if I try and go into the music menu, I still have nothing. So, let's start the repair. The good thing about the PlayStation 1 is all you're going to need is some Phillips head screwdrivers. A normal size one and some small ones. This really is my favorite console to work on. It's built like a tank. It's super simple design. Okay. I think all we've got is 5 screws from memory. Let's get them out. And by the way, stay tuned to the end and I'll give you a couple of very simple no-cut upgrades for this CD player. Because there are plenty of really in-depth modifications out there, especially to the signal path and stuff. I'm not going to get into that. Flip it back over, pull that top cover off. Like I said, how simple is that? Okay, we've got the CD laser drive mechanism there, and this is the power supply unit. That's the next thing you'd probably want to address if it hasn't already been done. These caps all look pretty good, which is really surprising. But if you start getting arcing and power problems in your PlayStation, this unit is the problem here. You can probably just recap it, hopefully. Otherwise, you can buy replacements, full-on replacements for it on the internet. The first thing we want to do is basically remove that ribbon there. All you want to do is gently pull it up and out of that connector. may need some wiggling, like that. Next would be this power connector here. Pull up gently, and you can peel away this little sticky tape here, holding the cable, which seems to be the trickiest part of all. And basically, this whole mechanism will lift out like that. These little rubber grommets here just sit on top of these standoffs. Didn't I say that this model was simple? We are going to put this aside for a moment. And this one. But we're not getting rid of this just yet. We still need it. I'm going to do the same thing with this PlayStation now. These screws are a lot tighter than the other one, I'll tell you that. Finally. One. Oh yeah, this one's never been tampered with. When you hear that crack, you know they're virgin screws. And for anyone wondering, this model in Australia was the SCPH-1000. In Japan, that would be 100, and I'm assuming in North America, that'd be 101. Flip it over. Oh, could be one hidden one. Ah, one in there. So you're gonna have to break your seal to reveal the last one. Okay. Off she comes. I'm basically just going to repeat the process, take the ribbon cable out, power connector, and lift it straight out. Power, sticky tape. Nice of them to put a tab here because everything's so small. Good. There we go. I will probably turn this small PlayStation 1 into an X Station. So the two units side by side. This is the potentiometer right here. And you would turn that clockwise to change the voltage to the laser. Now, real professionals would use multimeters and measuring devices to measure that voltage that they were putting in. But what you can do is, if you wanted to save this laser mechanism instead, if your game is to turn it ever so slightly, like microscopic turns, you know, tiny ant-like turns, just one at a time. Test it, see if it would read CDs, do it again. But I've already done that with this one and no effect. Did not work. This one will fit just fine into here as is until you try and close the door. And then this grey cover prevents the door from closing. Luckily, this top case will fit straight onto this one. Don't ask me why, it just does. So that's what we're going to do first. And this is probably where you'll need your smaller screwdriver to get into these screws here and here, which I'm going to do now. See, tiny little things. And this part's always a little bit handsy. It just sort of slides out like that. Now this one we really don't need anymore. It's done for. Let's do the same thing on this one. Those are probably the 2 screws you want to keep. Being careful not to scratch this laser at all. Oh. Ah. Okay. Make sure that that ribbon cable sits back under that little 2 tabs there. That'll stop it from flapping around. And we will put the tiny screws back in. Finger them in and screw them in. Okay, we are ready to put it back into the PlayStation main unit. So all you gotta do is make sure that you put it in the right way, the way it went before, which is pretty easy because there's 3 tabs, so you shouldn't get it too messed up like I am. Sort of on an angle. The 3 standoffs will just poke straight up into those rubber grommets. And depending on which one you find easier to put in first, go right ahead. Just push that ribbon cable back down. Rock it side to side maybe. Don't overdo it. Power. And tape. About there. That is pretty much it. Now we can put the top cover back on. Flip it over. And replace the screws. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Done. We can see that the lid opens and closes properly. You can go ahead and try it with that cover on. It just simply won't close properly. So let's fire it up, see how we went. Going to use a game first. There we go. It's gotten past that first screen, no problems. Oh yeah. Now let's try a CD. All right, no problems at all. Not gonna play too much. I don't want to get hit by a copyright claim on YouTube. But that, in my opinion, is the best way to fix and upgrade your Audiophile PS1, your 1000 series. Now, of course, I'm going to hook it up to a proper amplifier so they can use stereo sound, not this mono sound that I was using with this Sony television, and give you those final tips. The first thing I like to do is remove these foam bumpers and put something a bit more heavy duty on. I just like to use some ordinary stick-on rubber bumpers on all four sides. And that's just going to do a slightly better job of reducing any unwanted vibrations, especially if you've got some loudspeakers cranking. You can spend as much money as you want on these sorts of feet. I'm not going to judge you because they always look very cool. See what I mean with the new feet? It just looks so much more badass at Tron. Now, the second piece of advice I can give you to upgrade the sound, don't use these RCA outs to connect to your amplifier. Use the AV multi instead, which comes with a stereo splitter. The reason being is there are a lot more filtering components in the signal path before these RCA outs, as opposed to the AV multi out. Why they did this, I don't know. And there are plenty of other articles and videos out there that detail how to remove these components in more than one way to really improve that signal. Stupid serial port, ruining my shot. So ordinarily, you might want to go stereo out with a pair of RCA cables from the back of your PlayStation into your auxiliary in on your amplifier, or your CD input or your tape input on your amplifier, depending what amplifier you have. What I'm saying is don't do that. Take the regular PlayStation multi out, plug it in there, and plug the red and the white, red being right, white being left channel, into the back of your amplifier. And if you're only using it for audio and no video, you won't be able to hook that up really onto a smart TV, a modern TV. You'll just have to let it dangle there behind the unit somehow. I hope that's been a help for anyone trying to get their Audiophile PlayStation 1 revived. Let me know if that helped in the comments below and what music and games you're enjoying on this beauty. Bye for now.